Hey there folks, welcome to another of my World of Tanks Xbox 360 Edition tutorials. Today we're talking about ammo, consumables, and equipment. There are major differences to the different kinds of ammo, and I'm going to help you figure out what ammo to equip your tank with, what consumables, and what equipment. AP ammo is pretty much the most common ammo type available in the game. You can equip it on everything from light to heavy to artillery. It's also the cheapest. It has average penetration, which it slowly loses over distance. So the next ammo type is Armor-Piercing Composite Rigid, or APCR. APCR has higher penetration and projectile speed than armor-piercing, but it's generally much more expensive. It also loses more penetration value over long-distance shots than armor-piercing does. The other downside is it generally doesn't like to be shot at steeply sloped armor. It's usually premium ammo and will cost you gold or lots of silver to buy it, or on tier 10 mediums it's available as standard, replacing armor piercing. The next ammo type that you'll see most commonly is high explosive. High explosive has high damage and it explodes on impact, and it'll still do some splash damage if you don't penetrate. It's also got the advantage of being able to damage more than one enemy per shot, something not shared by any other ammo type in the game. It also does considerably more module damage. If you don't penetrate, you're going to still do damage to things like tracks or the rangefinder. If you do penetrate, you're much more likely to kill crew and damage the engine. Its major downside is the poor penetration. You're almost never going to penetrate with high explosive unless you hit very thinly armored targets. I generally save some high explosive for shooting at light tanks or for shooting at artillery. Speaking of artillery, they all get high explosive as a standard ammunition rather than armor piercing. Some can upgrade to use armor piercing or high explosive anti-tank ammo, which I'll cover in a moment. The other kind of vehicle that will use high explosive is anything that's equipped with a howitzer. The next ammo type I'll be covering is premium high explosive. Now only artillery can use this kind of ammo. It's essentially high explosive with slightly more penetration and a much larger blast radius. You'll do more splash damage if you miss a target. It shares the same weakness with high explosive ammo, the standard high explosive, in that it has trouble dealing damage through spaced armor. Up next is heat ammo, or high explosive anti-tank. It has extremely high penetration, even better than armor-piercing composite rigid. It's also great at long-range shots since it doesn't lose any penetration over range. The downsides, though, is that heat ammo is very, very bad at penetrating spaced armor, and it doesn't like angled armor in the same way that APCR does. It's also very, very expensive. It is not standard ammo on any vehicle that it can be equipped on. To give you some idea of how expensive heat ammo is, a single shell of heat ammo on the E100's Top Gun will cost you 6,000 silver. That's enough to buy 2 Tier 2 tanks. Anyway, let's move on to the two rarest types of ammo. Now, I can't show you either of these because I don't actually have any vehicles that will equip them. The first of these two ammo types is premium armor piercing. This is pretty rare. Only a few vehicles in the game can equip it. Functionally, it's the exact same as armor piercing, but with a little more penetration. The other rare ammo type is high explosive squash head, or HESH ammo. It is exclusive to British Tier 10 vehicles and one British Tier 9 medium. HESH ammo is unique in that it functions like high explosive with a lot more penetration. HESH ammo at Tier 10 will typically have between 200 and 230 millimeters of penetration. That's not a great amount of pen at Tier 10, no rhyming intended there. But anyway, since it's like a high penetration version of high explosive, it has a couple considerable advantages over armor piercing. First off, if you bounce a shot with armor piercing, you do absolutely no damage. If you bounce a shot with HESH ammo, it'll still explode like high explosive and do damage. But since you're more likely to penetrate, you're going to do a lot of damage regardless. HESH ammo is very expensive, but yep, it's very powerful. We have to be grateful that it's only available on a few tanks in the game. A couple of final notes should be made about general ammo types. There are some times when it's better to use high explosive when you need to just damage an enemy a little bit. There are times when it's better to use armor piercing rather than premium ammo. Just know when to use your ammo. I think I'll make a guide on that at some point. So the other thing is the tracer colors. You need to know these. Armor-piercing ammo will have a white trail behind it. APCR will have a sort of faded pink color. Heat ammo will be a bright blue. There's no mistaking it. And high explosive will have a goldish yellow color. Now it's time to talk about consumables. First, we'll be looking at repair kits. I'll be talking about small and large repair kits, their differences, their advantages, and their disadvantages. First, we'll talk the small repair kit. It costs 3,000 silver per use and will repair one damaged module on your tank to full condition. Then there's the large repair kit. It costs 20,000 silver per use, or 50 gold, and it lets you repair everything that's broken on your tank at once. No repair wheel needed. If you don't use it, then it gives you a 10% static boost to your repair skill for the battle. Next up, we'll talk about first aid kits. The small first aid kit costs 3,000 and it'll heal one crew member. The large first aid kit will heal all of the crew members, as well as reducing the chance that they'll get injured by 15%, but the cost is 20,000 credits or 50 gold. Up next are fire extinguishers. The small fire extinguisher costs 3,000, yep, again, and it'll put out one fire manually. The automatic fire extinguisher will allow one tick of damage on the fire, because it has to, but then it'll automatically put it out and prevent further damage from being done. It does come at a cost, 20,000 or 50 gold. It also decreases the likelihood that you'll be set on fire by 15%. This is very useful on German tanks. Next on down the list, we'll talk about high-octane gasoline. 100 and 105 octane gasoline will boost your engine power by 5 and 10% respectively. 100 octane fuel will cost you 5,000 and will automatically be used at the start of the battle. 105 octane will cost you 20,000 or 50 gold and will be used at the start of the battle. This high-octane gas, though, cannot be used on any vehicle with a diesel engine. There is also a Soviet alternative, which is Lend-Lease oil. It has the same effect as 100-octane gasoline, and it's the same price. Among the last but not least are food consumables. They will boost the qualification of your crew by 10%. They're used at the start of the battle. They're all premium consumables, so again, 50 gold or 20,000 silver. They have different names depending on the nation which they hail from. For the Russians, the name is extra combat rations. For the Germans, it's chocolate. For the British, it's pudding and tea. And for the Americans, it's a case of cola. They're all very expensive, but they'll all be very useful once they add clan wars and people are looking to get the very, very best possible stats for a single match. The final consumable I'll talk about is the Russian exclusive removed speed governor. It's toggled on and off and is never actually consumed like any other consumable in the game. It gives you a 10% boost to your engine power, which is useful if you need to go uphill, but at the same time it does do minor damage to your engine. You don't want to leave it on for long periods of time or else you will have a damaged engine for the rest of the battle. I personally find it's most useful when you need to climb a hill or when you need to make a rapid escape. In the last section of this video, I'm going to talk about equipment. Now, different combinations of equipment are most useful on different tanks. Like you don't want to use a toolbox on artillery, or you don't want to use a spall liner on something like a light tank. I'm going to do this one in a list-like fashion. First up is the camo net. It gives you a 25% boost to your camo rating when you haven't been moving for 3 seconds. Binoculars are pretty much the antithesis to the camo net. They have the same 3-second delay after you stop moving, but they give you a 25% view range boost instead. Don't believe what it says on the game though about a maximum of 500 meters. If you've seen my camo and spotting video, you'll know that it's actually only 445 meters. If you haven't seen that, go and have a watch. It should help explain how these things work. Coated optics are similar to binoculars in that they extend your view range, but they do it all the time and not when you're just stationary. The toolbox gives you 25% faster repair speed. The tank gun rammer, there will be small, large, and medium, as well as an artillery gun rammer, will give you a 10% faster fire rate. These are not available on vehicles with autocannons or autoloaders. The gun-laying drive decreases your aiming time by 10%. This means your 3-second aiming time becomes a 2.7-second aiming time. It's pretty simple. Then comes the vertical stabilizer. This decreases the amount of aim dispersion you get when you move your turret or your hull by 20%. Now this one is exclusive based on tiers. The lowest tier tank that can possibly equip it is the Tier 5 American light tank, the M24 Chaffee. From there, American medium tanks can equip it at Tier 6, American heavies at Tier 7, and every other vehicle at Tier 8. Spall liners are useful at protecting against explosive splash damage and ramming. Avoid using spall liners on anything but the largest and heaviest of tanks, since you're taking up a valuable equipment slot on smaller tanks which can usually use something else more effectively. Additional grousers are German only. They give you better off-road performance, but honestly, I'm not sure that they're worth the money. The cyclone filter is for Russian tanks only. It gives you 50% extra engine health. This does not, however, counteract the removed speed governor. Rather than giving you 50% extra time to use it without having a damaged engine, it will increase the rate at which your engine takes damage, so it's really only effective if you really find yourself getting set on fire or disabled too often. Improved ventilation will improve all of your tank's soft stats by 5%. This does not work on open-topped vehicles which cannot equip it. There are 3 different classes for it. Each is more expensive than the last, and whichever class you have to buy for your tank is based on what kind of tank you're driving. The wet ammo rack will give you 50% more ammo rack health. Filling tanks with the CO2 will give you 50% more gas tank health. And enhanced suspension, it goes under different names like Christie suspension or Belleville washers, will give you 10% more suspension durability. The load limit isn't really as important in the Xbox version as it is in the PC version. That actually just about wraps it up for all the equipment and consumables. If you've got any questions on how to set up a tank, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. I'll get back to you and help you fix your tank up. Lastly, I'm going to be making myself available for one-on-one tutoring help. I've been pretty busy lately, so I'm not going to have as much time to help you out, but I'll platoon up with you and help teach you how to be a better player. So send me a message on Xbox Live, CookieMan0. Talk to you guys later.